Hey guys, what's up? So I wanted to talk about a bit of a hot topic today. I don't usually do this, maybe I will more in the future. I don't know. Usually I don't have the energy, but we're gonna give it a go. So for anyone who doesn't know if this is the first video you've come across, hi, my name's Cody. I'm a transgender man. I transitioned from female to male, yada yada. Yes, this has to do with the topic I'm addressing, so that's why I'm telling you, so you can kind of get some context. But the specific topic that I would like to talk about is something I came across on Twitter, Facebook, all the social medias, as one does when they wake up and they check social media and then they see what's trending and it keeps popping up. And yeah, so the thing that I found that kept popping up and that was trending was Mario Lopez says it's dangerous for parents to support transgender kids. I was curious. The title does sound rather appealing to click on, pretty sensationalized. So I wondered, is this title true? Did he actually say these things, or is this just to get my attention? So I read, I think, one of the articles that talked about what he said, and it said actor and television personality Mario Lopez is facing backlash for saying it's dangerous for parents to support children who identify as transgender. Dangerous is a pretty serious word to use, so I was definitely curious. So I decided to find the actual interview that they were speaking of and watch the whole entire interview, to get more context of what was said. And I found, so this interview was with Candace Owens on PragerU, which I believe is kind of like a conservative network on YouTube. I don't know a whole ton about it. I know Candace Owens is not the most, she's not the biggest fan of trans folks or the trans community at all. It's basically a conservative network. And I decided to sit through a whole 40 minutes of this interview, and what I found was kind of suspecting. So I'm just going to play this clip of the interview of basically where they got this title from and what they were talking about, just to give it more context. So here it goes.
But so there are some weird trends, and one of the weirder ones for me, at least to try to process, is this new trend where celebrities are coming out, and I know Charlize Theron did this a few weeks ago, and saying that their child is picking their gender. And this is strange to me, just because they say, oh, I looked at my child was swimming in a bathtub and looked up and said, Mommy, I'm a boy. And that's weird to me because even though I'm not a parent, I nannied for.
Okay, so before I go any further, I want to say, I don't think that there's been celebrities that are specifically, I don't see it as a trend in Hollywood. I know that maybe, Angelina Jolie, Charlize Theron, I guess is the newest, they aren't saying that their child is picking their gender. They're just saying that their child is trans, or it identifies as this other gender, but it's, they are, Charlize Theron, her kid is 7 years old, and I believe their child was born biologically male and identifies as a girl. Angelina Jolie, I don't know how old her child is now, but it was the opposite, born female, identifies as male kind of thing. I don't know of any more celebrities right now. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but those are the only two that I can think of. At 7 years old, they are not going to be doing anything medically. So basically, it is what it is. It's not really doing much harm. I'm going to keep playing this just to kind of keep it going. Sorry, tangent.
5 years of my life. And the things that come out of children's mouth, they say whatever in the moment. You don't know what they've seen on TV, what got in their head.
Right.
And I've had children say they were mermaids. I've had children say they could fly and jump off of a staircase. And thank God I caught him, right? Because he thought he could be Superman. And so I'm trying to understand this new Hollywood mentality where they just think that their children now have the mental authority and
I am trying to
clarity.
understand it myself, and please don't lump me into that whole.
No. I see you're not doing that in your household.
No, I mean I'm kind of blown away too, and look, I'm never one to tell anyone how to parent their kids, obviously, and I think if you come from
Maybe
a
you
place,
should though, because you seem to be doing something
well,
right.
thanks. And I always say, if you come from a place of love, you really can't go wrong. But at the same time, my God, if you're 3 years old and you're saying you're feeling a certain way, or you think you're a boy or a girl, whatever the case may be, I, I, I just think it's dangerous as a parent to make that determination. Then, okay, well, then you're going to be a boy or a girl, whatever the case may be, and it's sort of alarming. And my gosh, I just think about the repercussions later on.
Right.
All right, so here's where the dangerous part comes from, where he says he thinks it's dangerous to make that determination at 3 years old. First of all, I don't know where 3 years old came from. The children of these celebrities are way above 3 years old. Generally, there's no determination at even the youngest. It's not like put in cement. There's no medical involvement. There is absolutely no physical medical transitioning happening at this point. It's very much more on the social end. But it's more of parents just letting their kids be kids. And I think that's something that Mario addresses, something that I agree with. But I think that there's a bit of ignorance in the fact that they don't know the whole story to everything. They don't know the relationship between Charlize Theron. I can't say her name. I'm sorry. They don't know the relationship between her kid and what they've gone through, what process they've gone through, the persistence of the child, anything like that. So they are not in the homes of parents who have trans kids, or kids who are gender nonconforming or persistent that they are a different gender, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm gonna keep this clip going here.
And
To me, I just see depression because when I was in fifth grade, I don't know, it was this weird thing in fifth grade where me and my girlfriend Molly, like we were tomboys. Like, we just were like, we're tomboys now. So we'd wear like baggier pants, the cargo pants were in,
Yeah.
and I tried to make my voice a little bit deeper. 1 year, went to middle school, and everything was fine.
Right.
It was just a phase.
Okay, she's talking about her 1 year where she was a tomboy and she was wearing cargo pants and trying to talk deeper. I feel like that's just like a fashion mistake. That's not like, hey, I had a transgender phase and I would have been really upset if I would have gone through with that. You know what? Kids go through phases. People, kids are tomboys, or they are, their gender expression can be different. That does not mean they're trans, but she only did this for a year. The difference is, if someone is trans, it's not going to be for just a year. It's going to be persistent. It's going to be a longer length of time. Again, parents aren't just making these determinations for kids who for like one day decided that they were trans. And I think that they are taking all of it out of context and just turning it into whatever narrative they want to turn it into. Candace especially is not a fan of the trans community. She is the one that keeps bringing up this subject, and even if they move on to a different topic, she'll continually bring it up, so you know that she just has this issue with the trans community. But at the same time, she doesn't really care enough to educate herself more on the process of it, or really to know the people who are raising a kid who might be trans, the process of it. She just kind of jumps to conclusions into thinking that this is something that just occurs overnight. And once the kid decides this, the parent must decide this, and they must transition, and they must do everything they can. It's ridiculous. I'm going to keep the rest of the clip rolling.
And I hadn't gone through puberty yet. Like, you can't make a decision about your sexuality when you're 3 years old. I was in fifth grade.
Well, that's just it. I don't think when you're a kid, at least when I was a kid, I remember kids still think my daughter, some boys have cooties, and that's it. You know what I mean? They're so, I don't think you don't know anything about sexuality yet. You're just a kid.
Right. And
So
then
that-
making that determination so young, I
Right.
just see, like, if my parents, when I was like, I'm going to be a boy today, shaved my head, and were like, you've made the decision.
No,
I
right.
can't even imagine how depressed I'd be once I went through puberty, once I started liking guys,
Yeah.
and then having made up my mind when I was in fifth grade. And I think that's a really scary trend that we're seeing coming out of Hollywood right now. And at the core of it,
Parents aren't making this determination after an episode of shaving your head and saying you want to be a boy, and then like she's also mixing up sexuality and gender identity. It's very obvious, happens a lot. She's very ignorant. Yeah.
To me, seems like narcissism, like virtue signaling. Like you just want to say, I'm so tolerant and I'm so accepting that whatever my kid wants to do, they can do.
Yeah, I think as parents need to allow their kids to be kids, but at the same time, you got to be the adult in the in the situation. Pause with that. And I think the formative years is when you start having those discussions and really start making these declarations. And it's way too young for some of these other. I just personally think it's just way too young to start making
we're not
these.
Psychologically there when we're 3 years old. At
No.
least I certainly wasn't. And then.
No.
All right, so I mean, that's kind of the gist of where all of these headlines were coming from, where all these articles and where all the outrage sparked. At the end there, Mario even said, like, he thinks that it's almost like he gives a little bit more room for discussing it with their kids a little bit later in life. But seeing, like, I can agree with that. I mean, duh, like, a lot of people would probably agree that 3 years old is very young. I don't know where they got that number. It seems that they just jumped from, like, I think Charlie's kid is 7, so why they went down to 3 years old, I'm not really sure. Okay, small update. I did a little research, and I figured out where they got the number 3 from age when it comes to Charlize Theron's kid. So I read an article where they talked about Charlize Theron was discussing a point in time when her child was 3 years old, or it said like 4 years ago. The kid is 7 now, so that's 3 years old. Apparently was like in the bathtub and looked up and said, I'm not a boy. And that's what they're talking about. However, I do have to say that at this point where this 3-year-old might have said something, that doesn't mean that's where everything started. That's where she was like, yeah, you're right, you're not a boy. That could have just been the first appearance of what was their child expressing a difference, or having a different way to express their gender or whatever. That could have just been where it all started. It doesn't mean that's where the determination factor came. It could be that it's been from year 3 to now year 7 now, which is a 4-year persistent time of their kid expressing that they feel as though they are a girl, not a boy. So that is not a phase. That is, that's a pretty long phase if it is one. Candace talks about having her 1-year phase. This is a 4-year so far. And at this time still, no action is being taken medically at this point in time. It's all just like letting your kid be a kid. And that means at this point, letting your kid wear what it wants to wear, letting your kid play with what they want to play with, letting them, like, if they want to be experimenting with like names and pronouns, like, sure, whatever, but it's not something that the parent is determining for them, or being like, yeah, cool, you're 7 now, it's time to transition, time to start on some hormones. And yeah, that's not the case. Anyways, back to the video. Thank you for listening to this update. People were outraged at Mario for this. It almost seems like he has more of an open mind, or more room to allow for the type of conversation to happen with kids if it is like persistent or whatever. I don't know him, honestly. I don't give a fuck about Mario Lopez. I'm not trying to defend him. I'm just trying to like kind of let you see that so much of what social media is just a fucking firestorm, just like a shithole of sensationalized titles and clickbaity bullshit that you can just waste your energy and time getting angry over if you don't research it yourself. And yes, he has some ignorant viewpoints. He has apologized. He even said that, it's just ignorance. And I think there's a time to be able to see that. There's time to educate. This is why I make videos. Of course, it's not everyone's responsibility, and it kind of sucks that he was on this platform that has 2.2 million subscribers, but honestly, I think more so Candace Owens would be to blame to that, because she's the one that is kind of obsessed with the topic, yet, we're mad at Mario. But I know, people expect that from Candace Owens, not so much from Mario Lopez. But he's just another celebrity who happens to be ignorant on the topic. Sexy has that platform, but at the same time, he apologized. I think there is room for forgiveness in more situations. I think the internet could, have a little bit more forgiveness in some circumstances, instead of just being like straight up canceling Mario Lopez for something he said back in June that someone dug up because it's a slow news day and they wanted to like get people's attention and start some sort of internet shitstorm. It worked. People were pissed. People wanted to cancel Mario Lopez. He apologized. Sure, it was probably just to save his ass, but at the same time, like, does it really matter that much? I don't know. There's a lot more negative energy being put out than good. So yeah, lesson of the day: make sure to do your research before you read any article. Context matters. That's why I watched the whole video, and it really is not as bad as any of these articles were saying. And so that's it. Let me know what you think. If these are the type of videos you have more interest in, I can make more. If not, then I won't. I don't know. But that was just something that was on my mind that was bugging me a bit. And feel free to leave any questions, comments down below. Peace out. I will see you next time.